Hello, welcome to Fat Man Beyond. My name is Marc Bernardin.
And I'm Banff Man.
He's Batman Jay-Z Rockenberg. We were all set to do a show today. We were 100% down and ready to clown. And then Kevin fell ill, terribly ill, the kind of ill that they only teach in textbooks. I mean, he'll be fine. It's not like it's not awful. It's a temporary, very, very bad day for him. So we're rolling a sort of impromptu Black Man Beyond with special guest host JC, the Wonder Boy Banff Man Reifenberg. How you doing, man?
Things are good. The world gets to see my real, what typically is behind me that I usually green screen out today. So that's the sneak peek. Y'all get to see my Star Wars museum behind me and how dirty and disorganized the chaos is here.
I mean, it's either a Star Wars museum or you're a bounty hunter, and those are the headed you collected for the
yeah.
Well, it's good to see you on this January 75th, the longest January that has ever been and ever will be. Staying alive.
It is, this has been quite the month. It has been, I mean, think about this. Christmas was less than 6 weeks ago.
I mean, I believe it because you say it, but it does not feel that way. Like we've just been fucking ice skating for the last 3.5 months already. But hey, everybody, I hope you're good in your world. I hope the sea changes have not buffeted you about too heinously or too recklessly. But hey, let's get together and let's talk about some shit, and let's end this week with a blast, or at least as much of a blast as any of us can muster in this weird ass time.
Oh, there we go. We're back.
We did it.
We are back. Oh my goodness.
You're listed.
We are relisted. 122 watching now. We're in business.
Welcome aboard, everybody. Coming in by the dozens. If you got here late, Kevin is feeling under the weather as a person can feel. That is a temporary under the weatherness. He will be fine. He's just having, as they say in the medical business, a shitty night. So it is going to be me and JC holding it down. Let me see. What can I say? What can I talk about that I have been doing in the world? As is all too often the case, I cannot say very much. I am working on a new TV show. It is going fantastically well. I can't tell you who it's for, other than to say that it's for a streamer that you may or may not know. And it's great. The room is wonderful. It's a genre thing, so we get to just make up big, shiny, wonderful genre goodies that hopefully you will be able to enjoy sometime before the next decade, because these shows take a long time to make. But yeah, it's going gangbusters. I don't know when they'll let me talk about it, but the minute I can, we will do just that. We will talk about just that.
I have something that I can talk about a little bit more than that. I'm on a new podcast that's coming out next month. I can't tell you where or what or any of those details yet, but keep your eyes out in March for me on a podcast about a subject I'm well versed in and I talk about quite a bit. I don't know what it could be about, you know,
advanced carpentry.
But yeah. So if you are one of the 8 people who likes it when I'm on this podcast, well, good news. You can choose to listen to me on another podcast as well. That will be, it's very cool. It's very cool. It's with, one of those big podcast company type people. So yeah, you will see and hear me talking about something that I am an expert in very soon. And
Outstanding.
I gotta be careful about how I talk about this, but the podcast launches the same day that my new daughter is going to be born.
So you're going to miss your very first episode to
So
go.
yeah, spoilers. We don't record it live, um, but yeah. So it'll be a good day in March.
Outstanding. Good for you, man. Congrats.
Thanks.
Before we get into the day's business, of which it is, like we're gonna talk a little bit about the Sinners trailer. We're gonna talk a little bit about Multicon, which pops off on February 22nd. We're gonna hit my top 10 of 2024, which is, I will say right now, a non-comprehensive list in that I did not watch everything. It has become virtually impossible for anybody to watch everything that comes out. So I've abandoned even pretending that is what it is. It is just, here are the 10 coolest things that I saw last year. A little bit of movies, a little bit of TV, but that's the move. As well as some honorable mentions, stuff that just barely made the cut. Then we're gonna hit some news. We're gonna do some Q&A if it seems like the Q's want to A and the A's want to Q. But before we get into any of that, we want to talk about our first sponsor for the evening, the good folks at Lumen. Hey, JC, did you know that when your metabolism is working properly, you will feel the benefits in generally every aspect of your life? I found it a valuable tool that gives me insights to create a healthy metabolism for my body, and it's called Lumen. You have experiences with Lumen, haven't you, sir?
I do. I will tell an old story. Once upon a time, I was working on a spec commercial, and the DP was exhausted and was trying to figure out what to order for lunch. And the director had a hey, thanks JMD114 for helping with LA Wildfire. The director was giving him advice about what to eat. Oh, don't get the corn because corn is basically a sugary starch, you know, things like that. Now, what if you don't have a director that's also a bodybuilder? Lumen can provide you with some insights about, you know, what you should be eating when. I've used it. It was pretty cool.
You know, and in case you're unclear as to what Lumen is, it's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you a tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. All you got to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know exactly what's going on with your metabolism. Then Lumen will give you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on those measurements, and you can breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips on how to keep you on the top of your health game. And why is your metabolism important? It's your body's engine, son. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates into a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, and all of the sex you can possibly eat. I know you don't eat sex, but I feel I would toss sex in there because it sells everything. So take the next step to improving your health. Go to lumen.me/fatman. That's lumen.me/fatman to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/fatman for 20% off your purchase. Thank you to the good folks at Lumen for sponsoring this episode.
I will say one more thing about Lumen is when I was a kid and even today, I used to love the action figures where you could, like, they came with a belt that you could tuck the gun into. Like you could act like they came with storage. Lumen has a really cool case that you can put it in, and it sits in your pocket. Very easy to travel with.
Outstanding. Because you don't want to leave it behind. You don't want to be a fucking off your rocker when you're on vacation, just going willy-nilly on everything. Stay the course, friends. Stay the course. Get a Lumen. Treat yourself. Yeah, man. So a trailer dropped that I have been eagerly anticipating for a while. which is Sinners, which is the new Ryan Coogler movie starring Michael B. Jordan and Michael B. Jordan, and Haley Steinfeld. I said it twice because he's playing twins. Um, it looks like it's set in like the early 1900s, somewhat in the South. It has a sort of Tales from the Crypt Demon Night vibe, and then it seems to be a singular location where a bunch of people are in a juke joint, and there's a guitarist who can do some really cool shit, and a bunch of, it seems to be, vampires want a piece of it. And so can Michael B. Jordan and his brother defend this bar against a swarm of vampires that are trying to bust in on it?
So it's like Crossroads with Ralph Macchio from 1986 meets Dusk Till Dawn is what it sounds like, but done by Ryan Coogler.
Done by Ryan Coogler. I think that's a very sophisticated way of selling this movie. And like I had a conversation the other day about Crossroads out of nowhere, because if the internet is very good for anything, it is serving you nostalgia that you didn't think you wanted and are tickled when you get. And so finding the like 7-minute guitar battle from the end of Crossroads on YouTube and just tell me more, Ralph Macchio. Oh, you were the greatest guitar player that has ever guitar played. The movie's bananas and ridiculous, but I still kind of love it because I saw it at just the right time.
Oh yeah, I remember loving it. I remember my dad after we watched that movie went out to the garage and got one of the deep sockets for changing spark plugs and put it on his finger to play slide guitar.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like I remember buying my first Steve Vai album because he was the guitarist. And like Steve Vai is a wicked guitar player. The music ain't my jam, but it was still like, oh, I'll give that dude $12 at Tower Records to see what he's all about. But yeah, no, that seems like a very apt description. And I am enough of in the Kugler pilled that I will 100% just, what's he making? I'll watch it.
He's never done a bad thing.
He's never made a bad movie. He's made movies that I've liked more than others. He's made movies that, have succeeded at the box office more than others, but his track record is somewhat impeccable. And he's earned a sort of blind trust from me at this point. It's like, you know what? I'll go. I'll see what it's all about.
Yeah, he's great. I feel like he does it all.
He does it all. I remember having a conversation. I was on a road trip to Vegas with some friends, and we were talking about the Sphere in Las Vegas. We were like, if you could see any concert in the Sphere, who would it be? And I was like, well, I think you kind of have to mate the music with the visuals, because the visuals are such a big deal. And like there are some bands that might be amazing, but who knows where the visuals are. But I was like, if you told me that Kendrick Lamar was going to play the Sphere with Ryan Coogler sort of architecting the visuals behind him, it's like, you can take all of my money. You can take every dime that I have. Like that feels, I don't know if it'll ever happen. I hope it does. I would 100% go. But that's the kind of synthesis that I'm looking for at the Sphere.
Have you been?
I haven't been. My wife's been twice.
For
she's
U2 or Dead?
Dead. Yeah. And she's going again. I think whenever they come back next,
Are they coming back to the Sphere?
She's going back to the Sphere.
I'm gonna have to go. I am not a Grateful Dead fan, but my dad, like, Christmas in my house was like, okay, it's Christmas morning, it's 11:30, we've heard enough Christmas carols, we're putting on the Grateful Dead. So I know every lyric to every song, I know everything about all the Grateful Dead music, not like with words, but like I grew up listening to it over and over. So if you're like, what's that song name? I'm like, I don't know, but it goes like this. And at 44, I'm like, I think I have to go see them at the Sphere, even though I don't like them.
I never want to do this, but I have to do this.
Did I tell you about my Sphere story ever?
No.
It was U2's last weekend there, and I'm into the technology of it and the whole thing. And but I hate Las Vegas. Like, the last two times I went to Las Vegas before the one before the Sphere was I flew out to see Def Leppard at Planet Hollywood, and I got on a 4 o'clock flight from Burbank, landed it in Vegas, took a cab to Planet Hollywood, got dinner at Planet Hollywood, saw Def Leppard, got a room at Planet Hollywood, and got on a 5 a.m. flight back to LA. And I was like, thank God I did it in less than 12 hours. The Sphere, I one-upped. I got in my car at 2 p.m., drove to Vegas, watched U2 play, got back in my car, and drove home that same night.
That's how much you hate Las Vegas.
Yeah, the Sphere, I'm not a big U2 guy, but the Sphere is everything. It is so cool. They do stuff there. They turned the Sphere during U2 into a cube, and then they brought the cube down. The only way I can describe the Sphere is if you've ever done virtual reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's virtual reality without the glasses, and it's a shared experience with thousands of other people in the room. It's insane.
It sounds pretty phenomenal. And I'm waiting for the right band to be there, or whoever it is, but finding the right person to then make that pilgrimage. I don't mind Vegas at all. I'm a degenerate, so I'm good with Vegas. But I have a very specific, like, 48 hours is about as long as I can be in Vegas before I feel like my soul starts to erode a little bit.
Yeah.
But
also, anybody in chat,
hours,
I was actually logged in as Kevin's account, so that's not Kevin. It's me. He's not here.
He's not loitering. All right. Do you think we should do some news, or should we hop into the top 10? Let's push the top 10. Let's come to that a little bit. Newsy news. And I guess this is also a thing that we didn't talk about last time. We probably could have, but I think we just wanted to kind of sidestep a little bit. But in the wake of the somewhat avalanche of allegations against Neil Gaiman, most of which came out and sort of surfaced in that New York magazine cover story that you can read online. You can find that on Vulture. I'm not in any way going to get into what the article details, other than to say it is somewhat horrific, and all of the details are incredibly, if unsavory is the wrong word, just they're somewhat soul wrenching to just read the litany of events that took place. In the wake of that, Dark Horse has effectively canceled Anansi Boys, which was the adaptation of his novel that I was working on. I had written as far as 14 issues in. 7 had been published, and only 7 will be published. They're not making any more. They're not collecting those 7 into a trade. Dark Horse is out of the Neil Gaiman business. And the Neil Gaiman business seems to be collapsing in and on itself. And today it broke that Netflix's Sandman series, based on, clearly adapted from his comic books, the second season will be the final season. And that is more of a release than some things are getting. There's a whole Good Omens sort of was supposed to be a third season, was truncated into a sort of TV movie. There's no release date on that, if that will happen. They had produced an Anansi Boys TV show that had never been dated and slated to come out. That I don't imagine will ever come out. And so yeah, it is a sad state of affairs for all parties concerned. Definitely not the least of which, at the top of that list of people who can feel everything they want to feel, or people who are directly affected by his actions. But the fallout is vast and wide, and there were a lot of people who put lots of good work into realizing adaptations of this work that will not get to continue making that stuff, will not get to see the fruits of that labor ever become realized. It has cratered a great many sort of lives and potentially careers, and not to value one over the other, except we 100%, need to value the people who, have nightmares about their experiences. Um, yeah, like I'm okay. I'm fine. It sucks that you don't get to read the rest of my comic book, but I 100% agree with Dark Horse's decision. It was the only really sane decision to make. Um, and so I have no regrets whatsoever about the way that that was handled. Um, so yeah,
I,
if you love the Sandman show, you're going to get the next season of it. But any sense that they would complete the entire run of adapting that comic book, that is done, at least for the foreseeable future.
I always think about when I hear stories like this, I think about the actor who played Alvin in the Cosby Show. And
Yeah.
that whole story that came out, he was working at Trader Joe's, and then he had to quit working at Trader Joe's because everybody was bothering him because his life was Cosby Show residuals, which
Mm-hmm.
then disappeared because Bill Cosby is caught doing the thing he was doing forever. Uh, it's always tough because there's so many. Everybody loses. Everybody loses in this
Yeah.
scenario. The hundreds of people who worked on those shows now have to look for work. The poor people who had to endure what he did, I guess allegedly, uh, have to live with that. Like, there's no the fans who love the show don't. Least of all, the fans who love the show don't get to finish the show. It's just it's crazy.
Yeah. It is all bad all the way around. Um, and so yeah, I mean, again, these are allegations. There has not been a trial. There has not been, you know, any due process. Like all of that stuff is still developing. But you know, if any of it is close to remotely accurate, it is still, the opposite of a good scene. And I think we'll probably just leave it there. But Netflix did announce today that like, yeah, all right, they some of it I'm sure was a financial consideration, which is I don't know how much they spent on that second season, but it's a lot of money. Um, and that is not money necessarily that anybody wants to just throw away. So you'll get to see it, and you can make your own judgments whether or not you like it or not, whether or not you are yet in the place where you can do the thing that fans have been doing for a very very long time, which is finding the way to separate the art from the artist. Like how can you, um, as a person who loves film and television and literature, find a way to enjoy film, television, literature that have been created by people that you no longer find, um, uh, acceptable is the wrong word, I think, but amenable, I suppose. Um, and I think that people have been doing this for quite a while. Um, you know, Hollywood is littered with people who are not awesome. Very, very often enough, people who find themselves towards the path of fame are broken in ways that we don't understand until much, much later. Um, but, you know, Chinatown is still a great movie, even if Roman Polanski is one of the worst people ever.
Mm-hmm.
To Russell, My Brother That I Slept With is still a fantastic stand-up album, even if Bill Cosby's a monster. Um, it is always a personal choice how you deal with that particular schism. But, it is a schism that we all have to deal with. And sadly, now more than ever.
I think about a lot of time. I think about constantly because I have and again, I'm not creating things. I don't have 400 people that are in my employ, but I do have about 20. And I constantly think about if I'm on this live stream and I say something, if I missay something or I say something wrong or whatever, everything I do in my private life, in my public life, will impact more than just me and my family. It will impact everybody who works at Scum and Villainy. And so I think about that all the time. Not that I'm hiding anything crazy, but but I think about that my choices have consequences for people way more far reaching than me. And if you're one of these Hollywood people who are doing these horrible things, and think that, like, don't, I mean, I guess in order to do those horrible things, you have to have a level of separation from the responsibility you carry as that person anyway. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
It's there's it's not for us to attempt to psychoanalyze or penetrate or any of that stuff, but it's it remains pervasively awful just how many people can be affected um, by one person with sickness, with lack of judgment, with recklessness, with indulgences, all of the above. Um, yeah, the cratering effect is wide and deep. Um, so yes, I hope people who are directly affected can get the help that they need, and I hope the people who are indirectly affected um, can find path towards getting work that they can be proud of, and that they can stand behind. But yeah, all bad. So switching gears with, like, grinding of a transmission. Um, let's talk about other legal issues. um, the estate of Joe Shuster, one of the co-creators of Superman, wants to shut down the release of James Gunn's movie. Um, at the very least, in certain international territories. The estate of Superman creator Joseph Shuster is suing Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Comics, claiming it lacks the rights to release the upcoming summer tentpole. Um, the executive of the state filed suit in federal court in New York, seeking damages and injunctive relief. Um, basically, ongoing infringement in Canada, the UK, Ireland, and Australia. Um, the source of this case is that, let's see, that the rights had been transferred to DC in 1938, worldwide Superman rights, for, let's be clear, the towering sum of $130 is what changed hands to get the rights of Superman from Siegel and Schuster. Um, and the copyright laws of countries with the British legal tradition, including Canada, the UK, Ireland, and Australia, contain certain provisions automatically terminating such assignments 25 years after the author's death, vesting the Schuster estate the co-author's undivided copyright interest in such territories. So basically, they're suing, saying that Warner Brothers does not have the right to release this movie without permissions and, I'm assuming, vast financial incentives from Warner Brothers to the Schuster estate. Or the Schuster estate believes that they can shut it down. This will be resolved. Don't worry. Like, if you are very, very concerned about whether or not you'll get to see Superman on July 11th of this year, if you want to be sure you get to look up and see the big blue schoolboy, it's going to happen. It is just going to cost Warner Brothers much more, I think, than they thought it would to release this movie. But when you are dealing with the linchpin of an upcoming cinematic universe, they will spare no expense to make sure that stays on track. But it is all the fruit from a tree that has long been poisoned by the greed of, can we have your comic book? Sure. How much you want for it? $100. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, uh, I think creators of characters should have some rights to those characters, you know. And I guess I mean, Superman goes public domain pretty soon in general, doesn't he? As says
I think that
Batman.
we are hitting that zone where, like, Mickey Mouse with the pants, and Bugs Bunny and Superman and all of these, like, these big Titanic. I think, like, Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers goes public domain this year.
The Shadow, I think, does also.
Yeah, like there is no way that Disney or Warner Brothers will allow just anybody to make a Superman thing. Um, they just have far too much invested in it. They will find some legal loopholes that allow them to retain those copyrights, but it's going to cost them. It's going to require an intense amount of legal muscle to get that done. Yeah, I don't think that there will ever be a version of Mickey Mouse that is like the versions of Winnie the Pooh that are hitting screens. It's like, these Grim Reaper murder fests starring Winnie the Pooh with
Mm-hmm.
no pants on. Yeah, I can't imagine that.
Yeah. I mean, look, eh, that movie's going to make so much money. It's going to make so much money. Kick a little bit back to those guys.
Yeah,
Pay for the guy's great grandkids college.
like, and this is always, you know, the timing is not accidental when you file a lawsuit like this, because they know like this is, again, it's the centerpiece of an entire year-long strategy of Warner Brothers motion picture releasing. And like, you file a lawsuit like this when it's the most sensitive for their company, and so they will find a way forward that makes everybody happy. That just has to cost a little bit more than Warner Brothers spent.
Yep, yep.
Speaking of Warner Brothers, I think you'll get a kick out of this. I know that I did. Um, there's an adaptation of the 1987 cult comedy horror film The Lost Boys heading to Broadway. Now, if you told me that 2 hours of being in a Broadway theater was just watching a shirtless, muscle bound dude with chain necklaces wail on a sax for 2 fucking hours, I would still pay that money for that ticket. I will believe.
I just hope it gets to the Pantages.
Oh God.
I just hope it gets to the Pantages. Because it sounds fantastic. I had done our geek trivia about this when I first heard whispers of it. It is what a great idea, I think. That movie's so 80. I mean, like Back to the Future the musical has been going around. And this that is like the dark version of Back to the Future. Like great soundtrack, like so thick 80s. I can't wait. I will go see it.
It's perfect. Like, because honestly, there are only like 3 sets in that thing. There's like Carnival, Cave on the waterfront, and the house that Diane Weist lives in with her kids, with her family. That's fucking it. That's kind of all you need. And, just stitch together a bunch of songs, the centerpiece of which has to be I Still Believe. There is no downside to this. Apparently, and it's set to hit Broadway in 2026 at the Palace Theater. There's a private invitation only industry presentation of the musical happening this March. So like, it doesn't feel like it's a not happening thing. It feels like they are kind of full guns blazing on this.
How do we get on that list?
I mean, I guess we'd have to be in New York and then just start knocking on theater doors. Like, hey, you got any Lost Boys in there?
Who do we know?
Yeah. I'll call my friend Lin-Manuel Miranda and see if he'll get it. Hey, Lin-Manuel Miranda, I want to be a Lost Boy too.
He knows the Broadways. The Broadways who
put
put on all these shows. That's awesome. I'm excited about that. Yeah. I did a million years ago, 10 years ago, I think, I shot a pre-stage like a pre-performance of the Back to the Future musical that they took around to pitch the musical. And all the guys like Neil Canton and everybody was there, Alan Silvestri, everybody was there to put this show on in this warehouse in North Hollywood. And I was like, man, this has got a lot of firepower behind it. I wonder if it's going to go anywhere. Well, it did.
It did.
It did. Now maybe I should sue them because I think I got paid $100 for that
You
10
know what?
years
Now it's
ago. I
time.
should, you know, I should take a
Just wait till
page
they
out of
make the
these.
Back to the Future musical movie based on the musical, based on the movie.
They did that. They did that with Mean Girls.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the producers was the great grandfather of the like. Here was a movie that we made a play, and then we made a movie of the play. And how many times can you squeeze this until the water is a little too clear? The broth is too thin for anybody to care. But yeah, man, if you can make that money, keep making that money. Good for you, Tina Fey.
Should hey, we should hit my one of my favorite ads. I think sponsors we've ever had. I think we're at that.
Ooh, which one is this?
It's the Graza.
Graza. Yeah, man, let's do it.
We're at that point in the show. We have 3 ads tonight, so we gotta space these babies out. I don't have the copy in front of me, but I will speak to my experience with this wonderful product. My wife loves this. We I don't know if everybody else knows this, but grocery stores are expensive now. Everything's expensive now.
But I thought that was all supposed to be fixed, like on January 20th.
Yeah. So we are going out significantly less than we used to. We used to go out for dinner all the time. We have made a concerted effort to eat in. And when this baby showed up in the mail, I was excited. This is the drizzle one. They have a drizzle bottle and a cooking bottle. And I will tell you, most olive oil comes with a cork top, like the good stuff. The twist top of this that you can drizzle it on your stuff. This is awesome. I'm not just saying that because they sent it to me. It's really, I feel like Kevin when he talks about that body odor sponsor. I can't remember their name, but that, like, I legit love this, and Jen loves it, and she's like, "Hey, get more sponsorships like these guys."
And when he says these guys, we're talking about the good folks at Graza, who have also sponsored this episode of Fat Man Beyond. As he said, man, this is an olive oil of choice. This is the full-on fucking bottle of it. I got to hide behind it so it doesn't blend into my background. But Graza is always fresh, never blended, and made from one-of-a-kind olives from one place. The Picual olive from Jaén, Spain. Over half the world's olive oil is produced. And not 1 but 2 olive oils that come in super fun squeeze bottles for easy sizzling, drizzling, and everything in between. Sizzle, the everyday cooking oil, ta-da, has a smoke point of 410 degrees Fahrenheit and is great for baking, sauteing, and anything you can cook. And then the drizzle is a super punchy, flavorful finishing oil that can be used to whip up a salad dressing, dip a baguette into, even drizzle over ice cream, which, all right, simmer down, Graza guys. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, man, you'll get 10% off your first order of any olive oil on their site. And the Graza starter kit with these 2 bad boys will take care of you. 2 squeezy bottles of olive oil, sizzle for cooking, drizzle for finishing. And they'll include 2 refill cans. If you run out of olive oil, you don't got to buy a new bottle, man. Just Graza makes it easy to be eco-friendly with their refill cans that are perfectly portioned for your sizzle and drizzle bottles. You can also find their bottles and refill cans on shelves at Whole Foods or Target near you. So head to Graza.co, that's Graza.co, and use Fatman to get 10% off your first order and get to cooking your next chef quality meal today. That's Graza.com, Graza.co, not .com, .co, and use Fatman at the code to get 10% off your first order. Get to cooking, boys and girls. Be better. Fucking do the olive oil shit, man. Just drizzle, baby, drizzle. Thank you, Graza.
Yeah, that stuff's so good. It's nice when you get sent something that you love. You know?
My wife continues to ask, like, when are we gonna get more mattress sponsors? We need a new mattress. Yeah. I'm like, how about this olive oil though?
Yeah. I mean the Manscaped stuff too was great back in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
I use that all the time.
I still got my fucking clipper.
Yeah, I use it, you know. on the side. I need to do some of that right now.
All right. Well, if you want to go take a break and shave, we can get without you. Continuing the news, I'm not sure if you were a Nosferatu fan, if you saw the new movie, the new Robert Eggers picture.
I have not seen it. I haven't
Um,
watched anything.
that's fair. You're a busy man with a burgeoning family. So I get it. I think I think we talked about Nosferatu on the pod before. Suffice it to say, um, I know lots and lots of people love this movie. It's doing incredibly well at the box office. I think it might be, I think it's an A24 picture. It might be one of their highest grossing movies ever. It's almost at $90 million for this thing. It did not crack my top 10. It did not even crack the honorable mentions. I just, it is the analogy that I used was like, hey, it's a flavor of ice cream that I just don't like. Um, I can 100% see how people do love it. I see that it's incredibly well made. They use the finest ingredients. Everything is mixed properly. I just don't like pistachio. This might be the best pistachio ice cream ever. Just not my jam. Um, but I'm sorry, it's not A24, it's Focus. Um, but hey, man, like this Robert Eggers dude is just blowing up. Like he's got this movie called Werewolf that he's making, WERWULF. That's his next film. That's on the heels of Nosferatu, and he just signed a deal to write and direct a new Labyrinth movie for TriStar.
Ooh.
We have no idea what this Labyrinth movie is, but the word on the street is that it's a sequel to rather than a remake of Jim Henson's 1986 David Bowie classic. He's writing the script with, I'm not going to even pretend to pronounce SJON, and the O has an accent over it. John, his collaborator on 2022's Northman, and with whom he's also working on Werewolf with. Chris Columbus, he of the Home Alones and the Harry Potter films, is producing alongside Lisa Henson, and Brian Henson is executive producing. I mean, I sure.
Am I wrong in that I read that this guy also said he will never make a movie that's not period? Did I just read that?
Yeah, he was like, I don't ever want to have to shoot a cell phone.
Is 1980 like, so they're gonna make it like this is taking place in 1987 or something? Is that the
It might
idea?
be.
Is that period now? I guess it's 40 years ago.
I know. I mean, maybe it all takes place in Jareth the Goblin King's kingdom, and you're never in the real world anymore. But
So
yeah,
who,
and I get it to a certain degree because so many of the restrictions that you used to have in classic movies of like, we got to get to a phone. How are we going to get this message across? We're waiting for the teletype to give us like the ways you
mm-hmm.
could complicate drama with a lack of technology are gone if everybody has instantaneous communication and the world's knowledge at their fingertips. Like I understand the impulse to be like, let's just not do any of that. Let's set
Yeah.
these movies in a time in which you cannot just pick up the phone and call the cops, in which and where you are always somewhat on an island. That help is not readily available to you. I
Yeah.
get it.
There's no like find my. Well, my friends found us.
Yeah. It's like I called an Uber. We got out of the Texas Chainsaw House. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Who do you cast as Jareth in this movie? Or that, because you've got to either put that character or someone analogous to that character. Who do you put in there?
Um, you know,
Because there's
like
only one David Bowie.
there's only one David Bowie. They are not making more David Bowies. Um, I think there is like, listen, if it's me and nobody's asking me to make a Labyrinth movie, um, I cast Jennifer Connelly as the Goblin Queen, and then she's got to kidnap a fucking child now, and so it's her plus a new 14-year-old boy who's going to be the new Goblin King. Um, that's just me because you got to sidestep the Bowie problem, but that woman is still out and she looks great and she's still a talented performer. Just fucking roll that way.
Oh my God. You know who I pick?
Hmm.
and it might be just because I watched the LA thing and she closed it out. Lady Gaga. She could get out there and
Interesting.
crush that, I think.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Jermaine Clement could also do an excellent David Bowie. Um, he did play Bowie in Flight of the Conchords.
Was
Um,
I think he did the voice. Did he do the voice of Tamatoa also in
yeah,
Moana?
in Moana, and I remember like the very last interview that I did, I think for the LA Times before I left, was I interviewed Lin Miranda about Moana. Like it was I guess it was fucking November of 2016, I think it was. And I was one of the first journalists to sit down with him to talk about Moana. And one of my first questions was, did you fucking get Jermaine Clement to sing your David Bowie song in Moana? He's like, Tiny. Yeah, it's great. Um, so yeah, that is happening. It seems as if Robert Eggers. Again, if you like the cut of his jib, then you are 100% going to get lots of cuts of his jib. Um, and there have been other people like Scott Derrickson took a swing at a Labyrinth sequel or remake. I'm not sure if what his version of it was, but in 2017, like on the heels of Doctor Strange, like he was going to make a Labyrinth follow up. It just never happened. So we'll see if this one gets off the ground. But but yeah, man, like Robert Eggers living the life.
I man, it sounds awesome. I don't really fuck with Labyrinth. My mom showed it to me when it came out in home video in like 1987. I was 6 years old, and the nightmare trauma that has persisted from those puppets and things for my entire life is pretty crazy. I will
Yeah.
not watch Dark Crystal. I've never seen it. Legend, no thank you. Labyrinth, I might go back and revisit just just because I feel like maybe it'll solve some of the childhood trauma, but I don't venture into dark muppetry very much. It's like more scary to me. Like that's why I didn't watch I don't like scary movies at all. I'm a lot like you. Like that's why I didn't go see Nosferatu. I'm like, this looks too scary. I had to watch the original German one in film school, and that didn't sit well with me. So I'm not gonna go
I need to,
rewatch it.
yeah, I don't need to go down this tunnel again. I know what's at the end of it. I'm good. Dark muppetry. It's like I do not cotton with your dark muppetry, sir. Here's an article that I'm very curious to get your take on. It seems as if Ryan Gosling is going to wage himself a Star War. Um, and hey, three-time Oscar nominee Ryan Gosling is in negotiations to be in a new Star Wars feature to be directed by Sean Levy, he of Deadpool and Wolverine, Night at the Museum, The Adam Project. Nobody knows diddly dipshit about what this movie is because again, Lucasfilm is as tight as a snail's tutor about what they reveal about any movie that's still in development. All we know is again, it's Levy who's been developing this movie since 2022. Jonathan Tropper, um, who's collaborated with Levy before on This Is Where Levy and the Adam Project, has been working on the script for over a year. We have no idea when in the Star Wars continuity this thing is set. We don't know if it's High Republic. We don't know if it's post Skywalker. We don't know shit about shit about shit. But and this would also be one of the only Star Wars projects to ever get a movie star. Most of them are like, let's break a person, let's find a guy, let's, John Boyega and Daisy Ridley were not, household names when they signed on. Neither were Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford. Alec Guinness was the most popular person in that first one. He was the old guy who could barely, stand up for most of the time. So getting a Ryan Gosling seems to be, an interesting diversion in the Star Wars path.
I have two reactions. My first reaction is that it obviously costs nothing to release a press release saying that you've got Ryan Johnson doing 3 movies, Patty Jenkins doing a movie, the Game of Thrones doing a movie, Scott, all of these people are doing movies, but none of them are actually making movies. So I'll believe it when I see it, would be my first inclination.
Mhm.
Because Lucasfilm has announced 8 billion movies, and we're getting Mandalorian and Grogu. Um, my second response would be, uh, yuck. But my third, after examining yuck, is that Ryan Gosling did Blade Runner 2049, and Andor was, at least at the very beginning, felt very inspired by that type of, downtrodden area of the galaxy. So I will rescind my yuck and say, if Ryan Gosling is like a detective, like in the Star Wars universe, hunting for something and encountering strange life forms, I'm all in. I think he'd be great as a detective. Almost do it like film noir, right? Star Wars film noir with Ryan Gosling at the beginning. I think that could be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't I don't quite have the knee-jerk yuck that you do. Um, Only because, and it's not because of Ryan Gosling. Like, I think Ryan Gosling um has an incredibly wide, broad range because he can be silly, like he's very silly in Barbie. He's very silly in The Nice Guys. I mean, The Nice Guys, he's fantastic in it,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And then there's your Blade Runner 2049s and your Drives and your, Place Beyond the Pines, where he can be fucking like a real serious gritty actor. And then there's a Fall Guy where he's just like a Hollywood dreamboat and it's kind of a lark and it's winking all the time. And, he's got a lot of speeds that he can play in. I just don't know what movie this is. And Sean Levy, as a filmmaker, does not feel like a dude with a lot of speeds. Like he's Free Guy, he's Adam Project, he's Real Steel. Like it's popcorn Hollywood movie making that feels triumphant in spirit by the end of it. Um, it's he's more Ron Howard than Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah.
And so like I it's hard to tell what it's going to be. Um, it does seem as if they are somewhat committed to it, and I say that only because Levy was supposed to direct another movie that he backed away from to make room for this movie. He was supposed to make a boy band, like a grown-up boy band movie that was going to star Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, but he sort of put that on the back burner to ramp up his involvement in Star Wars. So like at least one person is making decisions valuing this
Mm.
movie over other like Go projects that would have been a relatively big deal. Um, but yeah, it is entirely possible that nobody knows what this will be until we see our first trailer, or at the very least our first still of what the fuck it is. But
Look, the nice thing about Star Wars now is there's so much of it that you can pick and choose. For so long, it was like it was an all you can eat buffet at the end of the night and there wasn't much left. And now it's just, you know, you don't want the crab legs, skip the crab legs, go down to the filet mignon.
yeah, yeah, like I was talking to somebody about this today, that in the last couple of years, both Star Wars and Marvel broke me of the desire and the urge and the necessity to see it all. I
Mm-hmm.
am now in the place, and I think it was probably Book of Boba Fett on the Star Wars side and Secret Invasion on the Marvel side. I was like, I don't need to finish this. I don't need to, like, if this is what I'm going to get, I don't need to watch it all. Um,
Yeah.
I can now just decide. I can sample platter it, where it's like, you know what, Andor, great. Do I need to watch the rest of this thing? Not so much. People love Skeleton Key. I don't know if I'm
Skeleton
going to
Crew.
watch it. Skeleton Crew. My bad. Again, that's how invested I am in in more of it, which is like, will I watch Daredevil? Yeah, I'll watch Daredevil. Did I need to watch Echo? I didn't. Did I finish Echo? Not really. Like,
I will say, I felt that way. Skeleton Crew kind of brought me back. Like, I watched Skeleton Crew on Tuesdays. I watched Acolyte, all 6 episodes, the night before I had to do a podcast on it. Like, that's how, you know. Also, I want to shout out Seattle KO, who said, Ryan Gosling as a droid detective hunting other droids who don't know they're droids.
I mean, it is also Blade Runner 2050.
Yeah.
That's what he played in Blade Runner 2049, a droid hunting down other droids who don't know droids. Literally the plot of Blade Runner from 2049. But yeah, like I always live in hope. I always live in hope. You know, despite what the internet thinks of me, I always want these things to be good. And I hope this is too. Like, I want there to be good Star Wars movies again. Um, I want there to be good Star Wars again. I want there to be good Marvel again. I believe it's possible. I just don't know when.
I had a discussion the other day with some of the biggest nerds I've ever met. It was Screen Rant was in the bar shooting a thing with one of the actors from the TV show Found. And that guy was just like the best nerd you've ever met.
Was it Mark Paul Gosselaar?
No, it was the other guy. Oh gosh, I don't remember his name. He was, I gotta look it up. He was just Arlen Escarpeta. He was like the nerd that you like hope you're sitting next to a transatlantic flight next to, because like it was amazing. And he brought up Superman. Are you more excited for Superman or for the new Avengers movie?
You mean the Doomsday movie with RDJ?
Doomsday, yeah. Are you like, I can't wait to see Doomsday? Like, if you had to pick one, and that's the only one you can watch, which one do you pick at this point?
Um, that's a damn fine question. You know, dude on Found. I think, and the what you're weighing is, does the nostalgia for the MCU and RDJ and the potential of Doom outweigh, in your heart of hearts, the chance at a fresh start for the DCU for Superman? Honestly, I think I'm a little more excited for Superman.
Me too.
Which surprises me as much as it surprises anybody else.
Me too.
And I am not entirely sold on this version of Superman. And the only reason I'm not entirely sold is because it feels like a lot. You know, like Superman, one of the benefits of Superman as a character is that it's one guy. We all know the origin story. It can be a simple elemental movie. And like, this movie seems like it has 45 characters in it, you know, all of which can be cool, but like, it's a lot. And so what's the balance? Like, how much are you throwing at me that I need to make sense of? And how much is just noise versus signal? And nobody will have an idea about that until they see the movie. But the prospect of a Superman movie that remembers what it means to be Superman is very, very exciting to me.
Look, and this is like, anybody who's taken film history, this is something they pound into you, which is the 70s, the early and mid 70s were a dark time for the country, and they were a dark time for movies because the art reflected what was going on. And then you had Star Wars, Superman, and Rocky all come out within like, you know what I mean? Like 30 months of each other. you
Yeah.
know, underdog hero stories. Um, and that definitely plays into how well those movies did. It was like they were an oasis in a desert of parched people looking for hope. Um, and I wonder a little bit if this new Superman can't do that same thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm probably more excited for Fantastic Four First Steps than I am for Avengers Doomsday. Um, because to that point, like it is Marvel's first family. It is the first time we're seeing any of these characters on screen for real.
Mm-hmm.
In a story that matters. Um, Matt Shackman is an excellent filmmaker, and he seems to understand what makes these things tick. Um, and I think like Avengers Doomsday, could be great. I get it, but it does feel like a retrenchment, and a bit of a doubling down on what had worked before to do it again. Um, nobody knows what the story is. Nobody knows anything about anything. But yes, Superman, Fantastic Four, I need some optimism. I need the Incredibles. I need
Mm-hmm.
hope again. And I think that if we can if these movies can deliver that stuff, then I'm here for it. But yeah, man, it's fucking just somebody give me a Superman movie that makes me believe that a man can fly.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of all I want. Um, so yeah. That's a fine question from a person who's not in the chat. Ah, you guys have a lot to live up to, chat. Um, Last news item before we swing into our final ad and my top 10 of the year. Multicon is aiming to raise money for LA wildfire victims. A number of comic convention regulars are banding together to help the victims of the LA wildfires. On February 22nd, Kevin Smith, Dave Desmalchin, Seth Green, and others will assemble at the Preserve LA for Multicon, which will have the sort of normal trapping of a comic convention, panels and autograph signings, but all of the money that you would pay to get autographs and selfies with those celebrities is instead going to go to charity. Rob Liefeld will be there, Yuri Lowenthal, Tara Platt, a bunch of people, and all the proceeds are going to benefit the United Way of Greater Los Angeles. So like, yeah, fucking go. If you're jonesing for a con, if you're in LA, um, all of it feels like it's going to a good cause. You still get to get the vibe and the experience of hitting a convention, getting things signed, buying original art, getting selfies, meeting, your idols, but all those proceeds are going to go to help people. I think it's an awesome event. So yeah, go do that if you're in town and if you're feeling it.
And if you're not in LA, you're like, what can I do? Or you don't. You've got your daughter has t-ball that weekend like mine does. You can help out right now going to bit.ly/fatmanla. Throw a couple bucks. It goes. We don't even touch the money. It goes directly to Project Hope, who are providing hygiene kits and water and things to people in Palisades and Altadena who have no place, who lost all that stuff. So,
Which is awesome. Which is awesome. So yes, give what you can when you can. Drop a coin in our bucket. Get yourself a ticket for Multicon. I think it's $35 for tickets, VIP tickets for $100. Hit Multicon. On the internet, you'll find all the information you need. Kev will be there. If you go, tell him I said hello, and I hope he's feeling better. That's it for the news. Yeah, news week.
oh, I've got one. Did you
What's
see
that?
Chris Evans came out and was like, I am 100% not in Avengers Doomsday. Same thing. Benedict Cumberbatch isn't Khan.
Yes, I will 100% believe it when I see it. Maybe even then I won't believe it. Um, but yeah. Okay. Sure thing, Chris. Whatever you say. Um, this episode has been also brought to you by the good folks at Via. Um, hey man, I have a bunch of these things here too.
Me too.
2025, new you, new year, full of new possibilities. And don't let the bad times of 2024 bring you down. This year, reach new heights with Via. Trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, Via is a Swiss Army knife of wellness dedicated to harnessing the natural benefits of hemp to create high quality wellness products. Whether you're looking to improve your sleep, focus, recovery, add a little pep to your step, or fucking just get high, Via has something for you. With products ranging from 0 to 100 milligrams of THC, Via gives you the power to blaze your own trail. And they're gummies, man. Like we got Dreams here, we got Zen, we have High Love, hey now, Elevate, Cloud Nine, Flow State for focus, whatever you might need, whatever little boost, whatever zhuzh you might want. These guys can offer. Via is well renowned for their award winning THC and THC free gummies and vapes, THC flower, soothing topicals, and calming drops, all crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. Best part, Via legally ships to nearly all the states in the US in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry free guarantee. No medical card required. So if you're 21 and over, hit the link that is up here somewhere, and use the code FATMAN for 15% off. And if you're new to Via, get a free gift of your choice. So, hey, man, you can unlock the power of nature with Via's organic and vegan hemp extracts. Again, products range from 0 to 100 mgs of THC. So they got you covered whether you're looking to microdose or enjoy some more potent effects. Industry leader. They got 500,000 customers served, farmed and crafted with care in the US, top-notch customer support, quality ingredients, affordable and accessible. So again, if you're 21 and over, check out the link to Via in our description and use the code FATMAN to receive 15% off. And if you're new, get a free gift of your choice. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support Fat Man Beyond and tell them we sent you. This year, enhance your everyday with Via. We thank the good folks at Via for helping sponsor this episode of Fat Man Beyond.
All right.
All right. We're done selling things. We're done with the news.
The thing we've been waiting 13 months for now.
I know. As I said at the top, I try to see as much as I can in any given calendar year. It is increasingly difficult to keep up with everything. There are the things that I love. There are the things that I like. There are the things that I dislike. There's the things that I, try to steer clear of. I've made a list of my sort of top 15 things. And it is not a comprehensive list. There's still stuff that I haven't seen yet. I haven't seen Honora yet. I haven't seen Emilia Perez yet. There's a fair number of Oscar nominees that I haven't checked out yet. I haven't seen The Brutalist because, it's a 3-hour long movie about architecture. I'll get there, but it's not high on this list. I've heard it's amazing, but let's be a little fair about these things. So I'm hit my honorable mentions first, then I'm going to count down from 10 to 1. Honorable mentions. Ripley on Netflix, an adaptation of the Patricia Highsmith's novels, Talented Mr. Ripley, written and directed by Steve Zalian in black and white. It is maybe the most beautiful TV show I've ever seen. It is gorgeous and it is lovely. The only reason it doesn't crack my top 10 is I just sort of have a love for the Anthony Minghella movie starring Matt Damon and Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow and Cate Blanchett. And I can't quite claw that version of it out of my mind. And so for as accomplished and wonderful as this is, purely and emotional, just like, I dug it, I don't quite love it. Alien Romulus is also in my honorable mentions. I think that is 2/3 of a fantastic movie that for me kind of fall apart in that last stretch.
Did you hear that the story behind Ian Holm in that and what's happening with the home video release?
No.
So the director was like, hey, the only thing I was unhappy with in this movie is a little bit of the uncanny valley in Ian Holm's character in the movie. And I guess what had happened is they went back to the Lord of the Rings people who had made a life cast of Ian Holm's head
Wow.
And they had taken that and they had a physical puppet of Ian Holm on set. And when they were doing the movie, they like over CG'd the puppet.
Mm.
And the director was like, I think the puppet looked better. So for the home video and all future releases, they have pulled back the CG on that character, and you will get more of the actual life cast puppet
Oh, that's
in it,
awesome.
which should be pretty cool.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. I appreciate the did we go too far? We went too far.
Mm.
Let's back up. We can back up. We can back out of this cul-de-sac and fix it going forward. So yeah, that's super smart.
I
I
liked
love it.
Romulus. That was one of the few things I saw. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like it's just and I'm not gonna spoil at this point, whatever, now a 12-month-old movie. Um, but yeah, like it's once you get to the hey, this pregnant lady's gonna have a baby. What's the baby? I didn't need what the baby was.
Yeah.
Um, I thought there was an opportunity to sort of dovetail a little bit closer to Aliens than they actually did. Um, but yeah, listen, the style is great. I thought the cast was fantastic. I thought the sort of the terror that they achieve in a couple of scenes is really strong. And it feels like it's in that piece. It feels like an alien movie.
Yeah, they kind
Um,
of reach back to like Alien Covenant or Prometheus instead of just being like, no, let's just move, let's just go forward with
yeah,
this.
like I like it like nestled in between. It's the Rogue
Mm-hmm.
One of aliens movies where we're just like we're slotting it right here, and it kind of fits. Um, there are two Amazon TV shows that I quite liked. Fallout is on that list. I think that adapting Fallout from a video game into a series was somewhat of a gargantuan task, given that the series has no real characters, and so inventing a bunch of protagonists um, that can help carry that load and be in that world. And it was created with a great deal of sort of affection and of love and attention to detail. Um, there was and again, it's not a bad show. I quite liked it. It made the honorable mentions. It just didn't of the video game type TV shows that have been adapted. It didn't quite give me what Last of Us gave me, which might be an unfair bar to measure anything against. But like Fallout is good. I just didn't love it. And then Cross, the adaptation of the James Patterson novels, the Alex Cross detective stuff
Mm.
with Aldous Hodge. Super fun. It's not quite Reacher, but it's not aiming for Reacher. It's just a completely different speed. But Aldous Hodge is so magnetic and he's so fucking charismatic.
And he
Um,
hangs out at Scum and Villainy, which is like my favorite part.
like he's a fucking dude. He's a nerd. He's a nerd from way back, and so I will always root for that guy. But the show's good. The show's really good. And it's set in and around DC, and the crime story that's at the center of it is unnerving and fucked up. And yeah, if you haven't seen Cross, it is well worth the check out. And finally, Saturday Night, the SNL movie. Um, I think that like I haven't been quite as anxious watching a movie as I was watching like the first half hour of Saturday Night and watching, chaos attempt to be wrestled to the ground by Lorne Michaels. Um, it's very much a tempest in a teacup of the oh my god, all of this chaos to make a thing that we know they're going to make. It's the Titanic problem in that the boat's going down, but can we
Mm.
make both the events leading up to the thing is going to happen interesting, and then dramatize the thing is going to happen in a way that you haven't seen before. And it succeeds for the most part. It succeeds for the most part. It's an incredibly enjoyable watch. It's not terribly deep, but it is super fun. So those are the honorable mentions out of the way. Top 10, number 10. And I will say, even before I say this, there are two movies on this list that basically have the same plot. That plot being here are two best friends who love each other deeply, and then something happens over the course of the movie to turn friends against each other, and one of them becomes a villain, and one of them becomes the hero. The first of those movies is Transformers 1. which I came to sort of very late in the year. Um, because I had heard all of the glorious and wonderful things about people who were like, no, for real, you need to see this movie. I'm like, but I don't need to know how Megatron and Optimus Prime used to be friends and are now enemies, except it's a pretty great fucking story. Um, the animation is smooth and wonderful. The voice work is terrific. I will listen to Brian Tyree Henry do almost anything.
Oh yeah.
He is just so fucking good. Um, and didn't know how good he would be at this stuff until Into the Spider Verse and watching him play sort of Jefferson Davis, Miles's dad, and just the level of empathy and just your heart bleeds for that dude in whatever he's doing, and him as Megatron is a wonderful choice.
I will watch this movie now that it made your top 10.
Yeah,
they've got my 95 minutes now.
that I was already paying for because it's on Paramount Plus, but it is very much well worth it. Yeah, like it could have gone wrong in so many ways, and the fact that they did find a path forward to make it work, I was crazy impressed by it.
That's Hemsworth also as Prime.
Hemsworth is, as you know, I don't even remember what his pre-Optimus Prime name is. Scarlett Johansson is in it as a character that, like, I am not deep in the continuity of Transformers, so I don't know if it's a new character or not. Orion Pax is who.
Orion Pax, yeah, that
is who
tracks
Hemsworth
back, yeah.
But yeah, no, I very much enjoyed it and was surprised at how much I did. So well worth a check out. Number 9 is a Netflix film called The Shadow Strays, directed by an Indonesian filmmaker whose name I will attempt to pronounce, Timo Janjanto. I'm going to say his name is. But Indonesia has a thriving, vibrant martial arts sort of cinematic filmmaking tradition. He made a movie a couple of years ago called The Night Comes for Us, which was one of my favorite martial arts movies in a long while. This movie has deep echoes of The Professional, the Luc Besson movie about sort of a hitman who ends up, sort of taking in a refugee girl off the streets after her entire family gets wiped out, and they together, form this little weird ad hoc family bond, and then lots of people get beat up or shot and killed. This has some flavors of that, but like, there are a couple of scenes and sequences in this movie that do things I've never seen before. And I've seen a lot of fucking action movies in my 53 years on the planet. And if you can come up with a sequence that I've never seen before, fucking hats off to you. And this movie 100% does that. And so if you're an action junkie the way I am, it is well worth the sort of 2 hours to just sit down and watch, easy, like 20 or 30-minute stretches of wildly inventive action. So Shadow Strays on Netflix. Number 8, A Complete Unknown, which was kind of a complete surprise to me, because I traditionally do not give a shit about Bob Dylan. But fucking Timmy Chalamet turns out to be, somehow one of our like great young actors, and would not have seen this coming.
I want to hate that guy.
I want to hate him.
Can't. He's so good.
He's so good at what he does. He reminds me a little bit of Tom Holland in that, like, you kind of just want to root for him a little bit despite himself.
But Tom Holland is the kid that sat at your lunch table. Timothy Chalamet is the kid who sat at the cheerleaders' lunch table, whose parents bought him a car before he turned 16. Yeah. That's Timothy, and you're still like, God, you're so fucking cool.
Like when I saw him, every now and again I'll encounter some like talk show guest spot that he's done, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm also fluent in French. It's like, oh, this too.
Did you see the other thing he did?
What?
He did. They had him on NFL College Game Day to again, as part of like promoting this Bob Dylan movie, and everybody just went in on him, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he was like, well, in this matchup, I pick Ohio State because the quarterback who transferred from this school had this much stats there, and in this year he's shown this much stats. Plus, the offensive line has more pancake blocks than it, and it was like, oh my God, you know everything about college football too. What don't you
Yeah.
do? And you
Yeah.
sang all the songs in that movie as if you were Bob Dylan. Like,
Yeah.
stop
Like
it. Go
it's
away.
it's an incredibly impressive performance. My one knock on the movie is that, and I don't think I'm spoiling very much to say that it builds basically to the moment where Dylan plugs in and goes from being a folk acoustic savior to a tradition to a rebel punk who's just as bad as the Rolling Stones. And like of the like Titanic events in history for a movie to lean into, Dylan plugging in is like whatever. It's the biggest like kind of air fart in the like, oh my God, I can't believe he plugged his guitar in and still played folk music anyway. Um, all of that said, like it is a snapshot of a place and a time. The Greenwich Village in the sort of Lower East Side of New York in the late 60s, early 70s, um, is captured incredibly well. The shifting of a person from an acolyte to an avatar to an outsider is a kind of wonderfully drawn narrative arc. It is very well worth your time, and he is fucking great. And this, spoiler alert, is not the only time he's on this list. Young Timmy Chalamet. Number 8 was a movie I think that came out of Sundance last year, and then finally got released earlier this year. My Old Ass, which is currently I think it's streaming on Amazon, starring Audrey Plaza, co-starring Audrey Plaza. It's a movie. It's a comedy about a sort of teenage girl, sort of on a cusp of adulthood, about to graduate and go to college, who gets high with her friends down by the river and wakes up and has this hallucination of herself at like 38 years old. The 38-year-old future self is played by Audrey Plaza. The young teenage version of herself is played by a fresh young actress whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head. And then the old version of her, the Audrey Plaza, puts her phone number in the young version, young her's phone. And somehow, through the magic of time travel and cinematic wormhole business, she can then text and speak to her adult self while she's a teenager wrestling the shit. And it reminds me of like Meatballs, honestly, in that it's incredibly earnest, super funny about this relationship between a generational divide in which one of them is going to learn how to be a grown-up from the grown-up, and the grown-up is going to learn some shit about life from the young person. The fact that they're both the same person is kind of fun and interesting, and it's a tiny ass character piece that's incredibly well done. My Old Ass. If you haven't seen it, it's like 95 minutes long, and it's a good fucking time, and it's incredibly sweet, and deeply, deeply funny.
Did
Um,
you ever see About Time? Domhnall Gleeson and Bill Nighy and
I never did, but I've heard it's lovely.
oh, if you're like, you know what I need is a very good guttural cry, put that on. It's also like 93 minutes. It's super short. Rachel McAdams is in it. It is wonderful. It kind of sounds like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always here for like, and it reminds me a lot of Yesterday,
Oh, I
the,
liked that.
the Beatles movie,
Yeah, I
which is
liked
like
that movie.
it's magic. Like there's no science fiction involved. There's no time travel. It's a magic movie where what happens? One day, all of the Beatles disappear and nobody remembers it, but like 8 people in the world. And so some
Mm-hmm.
amateur musician wants to remember the Beatles by conjuring them and recording their songs so that everybody gets to have them. And it's a parable about fame and whatever, but it is super fucking cute. And the music is great. But that movie's a couple years ago. Old, not on the list. My Old Ass, however, is in at number 7. Number 6. Amazon Television's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, um, starring Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. I had incredibly low expectations for this show, despite the fact that I loved Atlanta and I loved Donald Glover. I just did not know how you were going to turn what is, fundamentally a 2-hour movie premise into a sort of 10-hour television experience. And they did a wonderful job of inverting and sort of amplifying and buttressing and inventing a new version of that world, in which the movie was about a married couple who discover that they are both spies, and that re-energizes their marriage. Like, they hate each other. We're spies. We're opposing spies. Spy versus spy. Now we love each other because it's hot and it's sexy and whatever. This is about two people who do not know each other, who are both indoctrinated into a spy world and are partnered with each other as husband and wife. And so it is about the arc of a relationship, from meeting cute to falling in love to breaking up to finding some resolution on the other side of a breakup. It is incredibly well observed as a relationship drama. They spared no expense in making it a spy show also, where there's like, we're going to a ski chalet in the Swiss Alps. We are going to, Rotterdam. We are going to Italy and Rome and France and whatever. And it is both globetrotting. Some of the guest stars are phenomenal, but as a relationship drama where there is also lots of shooting, I think it's pretty great. And Donald Glover does remain just so fucking magnetic. And I will kind of watch that dude do almost anything. He's Chalamet before there was a Chalamet, in that he can sing, he can act. He's funny, he's serious. Right. Yeah, like if you hadn't given it a shot, if you were like me and you slept on it for a little bit, it's an incredibly compulsive watch. I highly recommend it. All right, so that is the top 6. Let's recount where we were. And at number 10, Transformers 1. Number 9, The Shadow Strays. Number 8, A Complete Unknown. Number 7, My Old Ass. And number 6, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the TV show. Number 5, which I did not expect to make the list. I thought it was just like Mean Girls, but with papal candidates. But it turns out to have been an incredibly fun kind of potboiler, Conclave, starring Ralph Fiennes and John Lithgow and Stanley Tucci. It's fucking great. It is, and the reason why it's great is, and it scratches an itch for me the way lots of documentaries do, which is take me inside a world that I know nothing about, but I'm mildly curious about. And but I've heard of before. And so how you choose a pope, the mechanics of it, the process of it is fascinating. And so, watching Ralph Fiennes as not the guy who chooses the pope, but the guy who throws the party that is a conclave of bishops and archbishops and whatever, who choose it. He setting the tables and planning this, who sleeps in what room, and orchestrating all of the logistics of this entire process, but then discovering that the leading candidate for the papacy might be an asshole and could have already been booted out of the club by the pope who just died. And who do we tell? And is this true? And it is just this sort of deep adult drama about succession and ambition and religion and faith, that I did not expect to like nearly as much as I did. It's an incredibly strong movie. It's up for a couple of Oscars. I don't know if it'll win it, any of them, but again, well worth your time if you're just in the mood for, like, remember they used to make movies like this all the time? This is one of those movies they used to make all the time, where it's just good actors in fucking robes doing pope shit, and that's kind of fun. So that's number 5. Number 4, The Penguin. I and Kevin and I talked about how, like, yeah, no, Colin Farrell is great and he's doing a thing and he's one of our best actors, and anytime he gets to perform and play a character is always a joy. I'm here for fucking Kristen Milioti. I'm here for her Sophia. This show, it vaults into a different category and a different stratosphere when it's her story. When we're talking about a woman who was cast aside by her family and endured the worst version of somewhat like familial and systemic abuse to come out the other side as a broken person who puts herself back together and becomes a monster. Um, her performance is just next fucking level. Um, you know, especially because I didn't love the Batman, and this is sort of a branch off of that tree that I wasn't the biggest fan of. But the deepening of that world, the sort of the tragic nature of almost every character in it. Um, it is a relatively well done crime story that also happens to be a tragedy about just what happens when nobody fucking loves you. Who and how do you grow up and how do you enter the world? She should win all of the awards for it. She's fantastic. But yeah, so Penguin. Um, Also, not the last TV show on the list. Number 3 is the second of our best friends turned enemies films on the list. Wicked. Fucking Wicked. You know, Kev and I talked about it. Kev is way deeper into the musical than I am. I never read the book. I saw the musical once when I was 20 years younger than I am now. Um, the movie has its problems. It's a musical, and I don't tend to love musicals. But sweet fucking Mary, like there's a couple of scenes in that movie that just broke my heart. That in ways I did not expect, and that is one of the reasons why it shattered me the way it did. It fucking Ariana Grande is better than she has any right to be. Cynthia Erivo remains a goddamn powerhouse. And there's that moment. There's that when fucking Elphaba shows up to that nightclub and they're all dancing and she just breaks her heart wide open for everybody to see. And it's glorious. Like it's one of those moments that movies are kind of made for, that really only movies can deliver. Um, it's somewhat astonishing. So yes, Wicked is in at number 3. I fought myself a little bit for what was going to come in at number 3 and number 2, and it was like up until last week, Wicked was number 2, and the number 3 movie was another one. But this is sort of the way it landed.
Could I show my 4-year-old Wicked?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Like there's a little bit of scare in there, like not horror at all, but in the same way the Wizard of Oz is a little bit scary.
Yeah.
It is at that same level,
Okay.
and it's a healthy scary. It's somewhat, if there can be a wholesome, uh malaise, you know what I mean? Like and a lot of it is like the wizard, and a lot of it is just kind of like, oh, I am the wizard, like it's that kind of thing. But the songs are great. It's super fun. It's well staged. The sort of story of like, because I look evil doesn't mean that I'm evil, feels like a very good, lesson to be teaching a kid. Female friendship.
Okay. All right.
I think it's worth a go.
I'll
and even if she gets a little scared, then it becomes a teachable moment.
Yeah.
I get to parent nicely. But yes, which makes way for my number 2 on the list. Fittingly enough, it is Dune Part 2, which, it had come out so early in the year that I think that the recency effect of Wicked was winning the day for a little while. But last month, I think it was, I went to go see, there was an event at the DGA where Denis Villeneuve showed up to screen Dune 2 and then sit for a Q&A with Christopher Nolan, who was interviewing him about the movie on the other side of it. And watching that movie again in a fucking theater, maybe the best theater in the world, because you have to imagine, this is the Directors Guild official theater. Like, if there's going to be a screen that is tweaked to within an inch of its life, and the sound is going to be as robust as it possibly can be. It's that theater. And again, like, movies are moments. And the reason why a movie lives in your heart is because there are moments that you can't quite get rid of and you can't shake. And the moment where fucking Paul Atreides rides a sandworm for the first time, it's all fucking sound and vision, and there's almost no dialogue. And it's the Hans Zimmer score, and it's all of the sound design and everything. And it's just fucking magical. It is Lawrence of Arabia. It is Into the Spider-Verse. It's a becoming scene. It's here's when he becomes who he's supposed to be. And there is so much fucking power in that. And on the other flip side, the other part of his becoming story is when he embraces himself as the fucking Kwisatz Haderach, as the tool of imperial conditioning, when he walks into this collection of Fremen wise men and soldiers and leaders and basically fucking tells them, this is my army now, and I will lead you. I will be the man you need me to be, even if it means I have to mortgage my soul to be that person. It's amazing. It's glorious. It's scary. And I just think that, fucking again, for Chalamet, for the kid who's doing Bob Dylan in one quarter, who over here is doing like Peter O'Toole and Lawrence of Arabia and is like summoning real fucking strength and power. Like, it's
He just to sing his praises again, he had done something, I'll have to look it up, but he is one of the, I think, only actors to have two films hit a certain milestone in the same year. And I believe it was his Wonka and the first Dune.
mm,
Both released in the same year and both made like $1 billion or something.
yeah, it's bananas. It's bananas. And like, and regardless of how you feel about the person I'm about to compare him to, you cannot argue with their stature in the business. But I think he is the closest thing we've come to like Leonardo DiCaprio, in that, like, a fantastic actor who is also a movie star, who is also beloved by a very specific generation, but transcends that generation to become bigger than that.
Yeah.
And has a lot of different speeds, can do comedy and drama. And not that I need to hear if Leo can sing, but like, Leo is a dude who could kind of do everything. And I think that Chalamet might be one of the few of our new sort of 30 under 30s who could pull that thing off too.
Yeah, his feat was Chalamet became the first actor in 4 decades to star in the top 2 domestic films released within 8 months, which was Wonka for 632 million and Dune 2 was 575 million.
Yeah, it's
undeniable.
Who knew that kid was going to be that kid? But power to him, and the other thing that I appreciate about him is that he seems to like to want to challenge himself. And
Yeah.
he seems to enjoy, like, I'm gonna do this new thing, and now I can use this power to make interesting things happen. So yeah, I'm here for it. I love the Dune movies. My love for Dune goes way back, and to see them realized at this scale is a joy. And now, number one, the end of the road, ladies and gentlemen. You may have forgotten that this television show was a 2024 joint, because I think it premiered in January of 2024. And it has been an incredibly long run for it. It's won every award that it's been up for. Shogun. Shogun should not work in any fucking way possible. It should not translate. It's, the book is very much a sort of white savior book. It's about, look at Japan through the eyes of this white guy, which, whatever. It's almost entirely subtitled. It's almost, it's all period. It's all political. It's all intrigue. There's not a ton of, there's action, but it's not about action. There's all of these names. There's more names than Game of Thrones, and they're all kind of, they're deeply ethnic, but it's phenomenal. It remains this like the how you can recontextualize and refurbish an old thing to make it feel deeply, deeply modern. Um, and Shogun pulls it all off. Shogun gives you everything you want from a Shogun, to the point where we all thought it was a limited series. We all thought it was one and done. And then they ended that fucking show, and the world wanted more. And they're like, "Yeah, all right, we can invent some more Shogun. Bring me more Shogun." Um, it's yeah, it's terrific. It was the TV show of the year for me. Um, if you haven't seen it, run, go, check it out. Um, the cast is astonishing. The production is insane. Um, yeah, man. Like if you like television, you should watch Shogun. If you don't like television, I'm not entirely sure why you're here, but that's your choice. Um, so that's the list. Number 10, Transformers 1. Number 9, Shadow Strays. Number 8, Complete Unknown. Number 7, My Old Ass. Number 6, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Number 5, Conclave. 4 is Penguin. 3 is Wicked. 2 is Dune Part 2. And 1 is Shogun. Yay!
I got my homework.
You got some homework.
I think Dune 2 is the only one of those I'd seen.
Dune 2, you got some work to do, and you may be housebound for a little bit, so I think you'll have time for your homework.
Did you watch this? I don't think is on anybody's top 10, but did you watch Secret Level on Amazon?
No, I meant to though. How is it?
I have not seen it yet. I'm looking for like somebody said that they did like a Pac-Man episode and a Mega Man episode, and I was like, wow, you're singing to me now, but I haven't gotten to sit down to watch it.
Oh, and one other caveat to this list. It is only new things. So I'm not talking about, the final season of What We Do in the Shadows, which was wonderful. We're not talking about season 2 of Reacher. We're not talking about any ongoing project that exists that we've spoken about in the past. This is all brand new things for this year. So Slow Horses is not on the list, which is fantastic. I've started The Agency, which so far is very good. I want to start Black Doves, which I hear is phenomenal, but can't get to everything. Say Nothing, I hear is great. Can't get to everything. Still deeply in love with Abbott Elementary. It's season 4. Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
Season 5. So trying to find ways to narrow the field a little bit, but that's what I saw last year and I loved. If you're on Instagram, if you're on fucking Blue Sky, let me know what your top 10 list was. And not that I have an abundance of free time, but I'm always down to sort of poke and look and see a new thing that I might want to watch.
Did I tell you this? You just mentioned Blue Sky and Instagram. Right before my birthday at the beginning of the month, I downloaded an app that requires you to do push-ups before you can open social media.
Nice.
And I learned something about myself, which is I have done 13 push-ups in the last 30 days, which means I've been on social media for 13 minutes in the last 30 days. I would much rather get off social media than do push-ups. So, yeah.
Fair.
Not doing it anymore. The app worked. I was like, I'm either going to get in shape or going to be much more mentally healthy. And I think I'm more mentally healthy.
I mean, either one is an upshot, but there's also the version of I can lift a Buick now.
Well, yeah. But I can't get out of bed because of the world.
So yeah, that's the list. That's the news. Those are all of our ads. How do we feel about a Q&A? We got anybody who wants to say a thing about it?
We got one. Well, we've got 2 questions. We can try them.
Sounds good.
Dot Barisha says, I have a question for the end. If you had the option to remake a classic cult film and your choices were De Palma's Phantom of Paradise, Shock Treatment, and Emmett Otter, which would you do? which would you remake?
Oh God. Um, the problem is Emmett Otter's Jugman Christmas will always have a place in my heart. I don't know if you can make a better version of that. Um, the upside is lower, but the desire is stronger. To be like, wouldn't it be great if there was a way to do that? But that's the problem. Like, if you're doing it today, it's CG. It's, I don't know if the puppet technology still exists to be able to create that level of verisimilitude and like the fucking ice skating on a rink with in the middle of the forest with a bunch of fucking puppet. Like, it's so much of that is so great. I almost wouldn't want to fuck with it. I think probably like I guess Phantom of the Paradise, like I guess. I guess. I mean, shock treatment is also like super pulpy. Yeah, fucking shock treatment. Let's do that one. Let's do that one. Like, it feels like Phantom of the Paradise is a relic of its own time. That updating it would not give you the upside you were hoping for. Emmett Otter is just it's perfect. Don't fuck with it. But yeah, shock treatment. I think there's like I don't know if there's anybody who loves that movie who would be upset that you fucked with it. And I think you could probably do a better version of it than that movie. So yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen any of those movies. Um, but my
I mean,
favorite De
Emmett
Palma
Otter's Drug
movie
Band
is
Christmas. It's also not
Untouchables.
a movie. Like Emmett Otter was a TV special, so it's like 45
Okay.
minutes long. It might be super fun to spool up for the kids, like Christmas timey. It's a wintry
Okay.
thing. It's again, it's Henson and it's Muppets, and it's kind of lovely.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
If I had to remake an old cult movie, what would it be? I would pick one of two. I think my number one would be Cloak and Dagger with Dabney Coleman and the kid from E.T.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Lee Thomas.
I think you could do a really fun thing with, it's like a secret FBI plans in a video game. Or The Wizard, Fred
Ooh.
Savage. I think you could do a good road trip movie involving video games as well.
I there was this movie, I want to say it was like 1984, but the Manhattan Project, you remember that
Oh
movie?
yeah, yeah.
Where, the kid fucking invents an atom bomb in his garage,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly like the military is all trying to like it's the weirdest like hot boiler, but it's so much of the reason why it works is because it came out in the 80s and we were all living under if you're a younger person, it's hard to remember the level of dread that just existed in a world where the USSR and America were in an arms race that felt like it might fucking pop off at any moment. And so you're doing like bomb shelter drills in elementary
Mm-hmm.
schools, duck and cover in case there's a nuclear exchange. It's what gives you war games, like the panic of, you know, there's the reason why the 80s were the decade, much in the way that the 70s gave us like feel good, underdog heroes. We get fucking Road Warrior and Terminator, war games, all movies that
Mm-hmm.
were kind of about the aftershocks of a nuclear exchange between the US and Russia. But Manhattan Project was the kid version of that. We're like, what if I created a nuke in my house?
We yeah, we were writing the Scum and Villainy newsletter that gets
Mm.
emailed out the other day, and I made a War Games reference, which was like, "Would you like to play a game?" And the kids were like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Well, I guess we're taking that out of the newsletter."
Yeah.
And by
I
kids, I
remember
mean
being
like the 20-year-olds.
Yeah. I remember being obsessed. There's a section in War Games. It's towards the very end. And again, I probably am spoiling a 40-year-old movie. But um there's a section towards the very end when they're in NORAD and you're watching the Whopper basically launch World War III. It's very, very tense. And fucking Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy have broken in. They've gotten fucking Falcon and they're inside and they're like, oh my God, the missiles are launching, and you start seeing the fucking arcs of things and the blooms across the United States and in Russia, and then it becomes clear that it's all a simulation. But then the Whopper, the giant computer that is running the simulation, begins going through different sort of formulations of what World War III could look like. And then they start listing the names of all of these things, the names of the versions of the attacks. And it's like, um, you know, polar massive, U.S. Iran incursion, the Dutch offensive, the whatever. And all of these names are so evocative and so wonderful, but they pass the screen in blinks of an eye. I'm like, I want the list. I want the list of all of the various war scenarios. I want to put it on a fucking t-shirt, and it's that kind of weird, granular nerd detail love that I'm like, give me all the names. And like, I've tried to find the list online, and there are people who are the same fucking obsessive as I am and who've listed everything, but even the ones you only get to see fractions of, and they're trying to theorize what it could be. I'm such the weirdest fucking nerd, man. I really
Yeah.
am. I want that list of
Well,
nuclear war scenarios.
because there the guy who wrote that sat down and got like 13 of them, and then he had a friend over and they put on Super Mario Brothers, or I mean, I wouldn't even been that Pong, and they shot the shit over. Wouldn't it be cool if? And they got the 26, the list of 26 or whatever it took. So that, like, and that was probably one of the most fun parts to write of that movie.
Yeah.
Was like the fantasy of it.
Yeah. I remember I worked on a TV show called Carnival Row, and the creator of Carnival Row was a guy named Travis Beacham, who also was the screenwriter of Pacific Rim. And I was like, Travis, how many names did you have for the giant fucking Jaegers?
Mm.
You had, fucking Gypsy Danger and Striker Eureka and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how many names for various Jaegers did you have? He's like, bruv, I had like 50 names for Jaegers. Like, what are they? Share with me the names. Like, I love
Yeah.
names. And he wouldn't fucking do it. And I was like, Travis, you son of a bitch. Just give me the fucking uncut dope of Jaeger names. No, the worst. But yes, yes, the Manhattan Project is one that I would remake
that
to square that circle all the way back.
that would do well right now, I think, too. In like a world of like dirty bombs and the Starship Troopers, like the mini nukes that everybody's talking
Mm-hmm.
about now.
Yeah,
Tactical nuclear warhead, you know.
that the dude made with like fucking the uranium scraped off of like watch faces and fucking palm olive gel as the coolant for the atomic warhead and but yes, still could be fun. All right, you had one last question.
Yeah, which I also haven't seen this. That's the theme of tonight. Zach Glenn, uh curious what JC and Mark think of the movie Sphere. Great cast and source novel, strange misfire of a film.
Yeah, I remember. I think I read the book because I ended up on like a Michael Crichton tear after Jurassic Park and just kind of went a little ham. Um, the book was pretty good in the way that books can be good and movies can be shit, and the movie is kind of shitty. Um, I barely remember it because A, it was bad, and so I've never revisited it. But I remember loving the book, because the book gets to get by on just big ideas and kind of fun. Whereas once you realize that stuff in 3 dimensions, it starts to feel a little bit silly. Um, Even though everybody's taking it seriously. It's one of those movies where every actor in it is fucking giving it their all. Like there's fucking Dustin Hoffman and there's like Morgan Freeman and they're trying their goddamn best. And it just kind of doesn't work. Um, I fell into a hole the other day. I was just flipping fucking channels some weekend and Virtuosity was on like fucking stars. Do you remember Virtuosity? Denzel Washington. This movie
Oh, I
must have been like
do.
1989, maybe
Yeah.
1990. Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. And Russell Crowe plays Sid 6.7, a computer program designed to be the amalgamation of the world's worst serial killers, including the guy who killed Denzel Washington's wife and daughter. And he's a sort of defrocked cop. And who can possibly catch the madman that is Sid 6.7, if not for Denzel
Mm.
Washington's best cop in the universe? And so it is such this weird relic of what we thought the internet was in the late 80s. It's got some lawnmower van vibes. It's got some Johnny Mnemonic vibes. The limit of computer technology at the time to try to conjure what we thought the internet was, if you could really be in
Mm.
it, it's patently ridiculous most of the time. Um, but yeah, it is. I'm not sure that I've ever seen a movie with two better actors that was so bad as, as Virtuosity.
Speaking of, I did see a new Netflix movie, which, um, did you watch Extraction with Chris
Yep.
Hemsworth? Did you like
Mm-hmm.
it?
Kind of.
Like, it's a very, like, feels like 1990s Steven Seagal
Mm-hmm.
ish, like Van Damme style movie. Netflix was like, hey, Chris Hemsworth is busy, but you know who's not busy? Russell Crowe and Liam Hemsworth.
Oh
And they
no.
did a movie called Land of Bad, which
Oh
is which is did you ever see Bat 2-1, which was Gene Hackman behind
yeah, I
enemy
remember.
lines in Vietnam, and he's just got the guy on the radio he's talking to? This
Mhm.
is that movie, except Liam Hemsworth is the guy behind. He's the guy who's never been on active duty. He's like the drone tech, and he
Mhm.
gets dropped with some green berets, and all the green berets get blown up, and now he's behind enemy lines, and Russell Crowe is in the chair back at base talking him through how to be a, survive the night
Oh
behind
no.
enemy lines. um I mean, it is as entertaining as, like, you know a, like, Rambo-esque behind enemy lines movie can be. um but it's also just in that same way so cliche and terrible. But if you're looking to be like, what did Kevin call it? Like second screen. It's like a great
Mhm.
second screen movie.
Land of Bad. All right. I
Land of
may
Bad.
I may have to check it out because the weird Russell Crowe choices as of late kind of fascinate me. Which is like, this guy's got at the very least one Oscar. I'm pretty sure he's got two, and he's doing Land of Bad and Craven, and like, all right, man. Like, what's the choice process? It's like, hey, Russell, do you have like a week, and we'll give you $1 million? Like, yeah, all right.
Basically, it's also like, what do I have to do? Sit in this chair. We'll put your lines on the computer monitor that should be a drone tech monitor. Wait,
No,
I just
God,
have to read my yeah,
done.
it's a good, like, again, like 100-minute movie.
It reminds me of Need for Speed. Did you ever see that movie, the adaptation of the video game, where Aaron Paul is your lead as like he's a driver with a mission, and like Rami Malek is his best friend, who's a little weird and wiry, but he's a great tech dude. But Michael Keaton played like the mastermind behind an interstate race, that if you won the
Oh.
race, you've got like whatever, $10 million or whatever it is. And Michael Keaton is only ever in an office on a phone in front of a computer, like clearly just saying, all right, this guy, he's on the race. Look who's ahead. It's fucking Aaron Paul. This kid, he's got something. He's showing me something here. It's the like easiest, laziest version of, yeah, I'll be in your movie. What do I got to do? Sit in that chair for like 3 days and read these lines? You got it. With my check.
No, I kind of want to go see that now, though. I'll watch anything Michael Keaton. So
Yeah. No, I mean you'll get uncut Keaton because he's nobody else is on the screen with him. He's got nothing else to do.
It reminds me of, I mean, not, but did you see? I think we may have talked about Gran Turismo.
Hmm.
I thought that was pretty good.
I was surprisingly affected by that movie. Like
Hmm.
it because it is not from inside the game. Let's tell you the story of a whatever, whatever. Instead, it's a fucking sports movie. It is just a like, can you be the best? Can you beat everybody else? Can you train? Can you win your game? Can you survive your massive like low spot where you've got to decide you want to be the version of this thing? And like the kid is good. Fucking David Harbour as Mickey as his coach. The racing stuff is all shot really well. It's like this should be worse. This is kind of good.
Yeah. It's funny. It reminds me of my brother called me like last week and he told me a story. And his son is 9 or 10.
Mm.
And uh, his new career choice is to be a professional Fortnite player. And my brother is like, you're not ever going to be a professional Fortnite player. They're like, the number one Fortnite player makes $1 million a year or whatever it is. So like 3 days later, after every day, you're no, no, no. My nephew says to my brother, hey, can I stay up an extra couple hours? My friends have joined a Fortnite tournament. They want me to be on their team. My brother's like, fine, you can play with your friends. It's a Friday night. They came in second fucking place in the Fortnite tournament, and he's getting a check sent to the house for like a couple $100.
Wow.
And he goes to my brother and he's like, you see, I'm already making more money doing this than anything else I've ever done. My brother's like, well, I don't even know how to argue with you now. Like,
Yeah.
egg on my face.
God damn it. All right. Okay. That's amazing.
So
I love that story.
I'm looking forward to fighting with my kids about being professional video game players.
Yeah. About what dumb thing doesn't feel like a job, but turns out to actually be incredibly lucrative.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was a kid, and like when I had to have the conversation with my dad about like, Dad, I don't want to be a business administration major. I think I want to study film. And he was like, are you serious? Like, yeah, Dad, I don't do math well. And I feel like business is a mistake. And my grades are showing that it's a mistake. And it's like, well, I guess you read enough fucking comic books and watch enough movies. Like, all right, we'll see what happens. And then like flash forward 25 years later, and it's like, yeah, all right, you were right.
Yeah. Yep.
I was wrong to fight you for as hard as I fought you. Okay.
Yep. Yep. I got that. Out of school, out of college, we lived in New York and I worked for Major League Baseball. And I was doing very well. I was climbing through Major League Baseball. And after 3.5 years, I called my parents. I was like, I'm going to quit and move to LA. And they were like, what are you doing? Like, no, I think I should go out there and do things out there. I'm like 27. I feel like I've done New York. I'm 27. I'm going to go out there and try to do movies. And everybody yelled at me for moving to New York in the first place. And then when I succeeded in New York, everybody was like, you're going to give it all up to move to LA? That's even worse. It's been all right.
You already did the impossible thing once. You're going to do it again?
Yeah. What are you thinking? Do you know who did that, though? A great story of the guy who did the impossible thing twice. Almost better than anybody. Paul Mitchell hair care products.
Yeah.
He was selling Paul Mitchell hair care products out of his trunk on Melrose Avenue. Sells the company for $1 billion. Doesn't want to retire. He's like, you know what the world needs, or what I need, is some tequila to drink while I'm retired. He started Patron. He sold Patron for $1 billion. The guy like bootstrapped two different billion-dollar sales.
Fuck.
Makes Scum and Villainy look like small, small,
I know, like,
and assistant editing a bunch of movies, small potatoes. But you know, but yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
crazy, right?
like it's the lightning in a bottle twice. How do you do that thing and
Mm-hmm.
just fucking keep doing that thing?
I mean, the other one that's like kind of in our face is Ashley Eckstein, who
Mm-hmm.
play the voice of Ahsoka Tano. It's like, you were the voice of Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka Tano was like the character in Star Wars for a decade. Like, you did Ahsoka Tano longer than Harrison Ford did Han Solo. Huge win. By the way, how much did you sell her universe for as well?
Mm-hmm.
To Hot Topic. Like, talk about
Yeah,
winning the lottery twice.
yeah. I mean, the first version of that story that I heard was Lyle Waggoner. Remember Lyle Waggoner, who was Steve Trevor on the Wonder Woman show?
Oh
You
yeah.
know, just one of those fucking actors who'd been banging around Hollywood for like 20 years. And, at one point he was like, listen, I'd been doing all these fucking shows on all these various lots, and they got me living in this like shitty trailer, and I got a crappy old office on the lot that they're turning into my dressing room. None of this is good. Like, but what if there were good trailers? What if there were like, and so he started Star Wagons. And the
Whoa.
two G's in wagons are because his name was Wagoner. And like that was his side hustle, which was creating the model for every fucking movie trailer that has ever been used for the last 50 years. And made way more money as the owner and proprietor of Star Wagons than he ever did as an actor. And is still like, I think he's since passed away like 20 years ago or something. But Star Wagons are
It's
still
everywhere.
everywhere. Because he's like, I saw a need. I was an actor. I hated where they were fucking putting me. The hair and makeup was shitty. It was always like dodgy ass fucking Winnebagos. What if we made these state of the art? What if I bought a
Whoa.
yeah, yeah. And it's the like, there's not a good tequila. Like that's not, like, yeah, you can go to the sort of bowels of Chihuahua, Mexico, and find some real good, like middle of nowhere, just made in a vat in a backyard tequila. But your average American won't know the difference. And what if we just gave them a good, cheap, clean tequila? Great.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And Patron was everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what else can I put in a bottle and sell people?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
I did the shampoo shit. How about some tequila?
yeah.
Win-win for everybody. Ugh. All right. We should probably tap out.
Yeah, I
You're
think
just
that's it.
literally like, I remember a thing. Remember this? Um, thank you
Wagner
as
passed away
always.
in 2020, is
Yeah,
what they said.
really. Oh. Au revoir, Mr. Wagoner. Thank you for the wagons. Thank you to our sponsors for this evening show, to the good folks at Lumen and Graza olive oil and Via hemp products. Check them all out. Code FATMAN will work at any of those places, get you a certain percentage off, get you some free swag. Thank you to all three of them for riding with us on this episode. Um, Thank you, as always, to Bathman, JC Reifenberg, for making it happen, and Will Wilkins behind the scenes for fixing all the pipes and relisting us on the stock exchange. Um, thank you to Kevin Smith for being Kevin Smith, and we hope he feels better, and we hope he's back in circulation pretty quickly as he prepares to embark on the oral sex tour, sects, where he and Jay Muse are hitting the road to celebrate all things Jay and Silent Bob. See them in a city near you. I think, yeah, they start in Boston next Monday and they end in St. Louis on Valentine's Day. Um, they'll be around. Go say hey. Um, and as always, thank you to you, the audience. I know this was not the show you were expecting to get today, but I'm glad that those of you who stuck around, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope we did not waste too much of your Friday night. But then again, if you are of the demographic that we are, you were not going anywhere on a Friday night anyway. Like, we are old. We're all just fucking chilling. What can we do and not leave the house today? So thank you for rolling with us. If you're listening later on the internet, hit fatman dot
bit.ly/fatmanla.
Correct. To drop a coin in the bucket to help some of those affected by the LA wildfires. The fires may be out, but the effects of those fires are going to be pervasive and enduring for lots of people. I have a friend who lives in Altadena and did not lose his house. He was one of the lucky ones who, for whatever reason, the fire spared his house and his block and some of his neighbors. He still cannot go to his house for like a year because of remediation and cleaning. And even if he were to go back tomorrow, there's not a city around him to get supplies and food and any of the ways that a person lives in a community. There's no community anymore. So like everybody in those regions has been affected, even if your house is still standing. You are still displaced. You are still without a house. You're still without a home. There's still things you don't have access to. So yeah, if there's any way that you can help, and if you can find your way to do so, click the button, and yeah, do what you can. And if you're in LA, head over to Multicon on February 22nd. Go see Kev, go buy a selfie or a signature, say hi to our friend Dave Desmalchin at the same place and Seth Green, and do the same thing. Go to a convention, get all the shit you get at a con, but all of those proceeds go to United Way, Greater LA. We can do a little good for people, and if we can, we should. And that is a Fat Man Beyond.
Yeah, $315 tonight, thanks to our audience. Again, that got people some like deodorant and water, stuff that if you have a house is pretty easy to get. If you don't have a house, might not be so easy.
Yeah. I mean, everything gets exponentially more complicated. Every aspect of your life just is thrown upside down, and just finding what used to be reliable has now become incredibly challenging. So thank you to everybody who was on the stream, who dropped some coins in the bucket. Thank you to the people going forward. We're keeping it alive for a couple of weeks. If you'd like to go in, please bit.ly fatmanla to help out. And yeah, that is a show for tonight. Thank you for rolling with us here on Fatman/Black Man Beyond. That is JC Reifenberg, who makes all the lights go on. My name is Marc Bernardin. Stay tuned. We will be back when I think Kevin is back from his world tour with Jay Muse, and maybe we'll be back in the cantina. Who knows? But yes, we will see you. Same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com or youtube.com/Kevin Smith. Peace be with you, y'all. Chef's kiss. Wow. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
This is the cat. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the AKA Ask Kev Anything.
Every saga has a 10-year anniversary, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what happens when Jay and Silent Bob get old. I'm Kevin